So far, all of the broken access control vulnerabilities or bugs that we covered allowed us to access information or data beyond our limits. But as you can see in this definition, we said broken access control can allow us to access or modify information. So in this lecture, I'm going to show you an example of a broken access control vulnerability where we're going to be able to modify information beyond our limits. And as we do that, I'm going to introduce you to the repeater functionality of Burp Suite so that you can use it in any other situation where you need such functionality. So I have the target website in here. As usual, you'd want to test everything, and the link is in the resources. And this website is pretty similar to everything we've been testing. And usually once we log in with the username Wiener and the password Peter as usual, we get this input box that allow us to change or update our email, but I never actually tested this. So as we mentioned, and as I'm going to show you later on when I get to my hacking methodology, you're going to have to press every button and test every single functionality offered by the target website. So let's go ahead and test it normally as a normal user, assuming we want to change our email. And to do so, we're just going to type test@test.com. Just for example, we want to change our email to that. Our current email is this. And if I click on update, as you can see, perfect, my username is still the same, but my email changed to test@test.com. Now this is an input box, and as mentioned before, input boxes can be used to send data to the web application. And a great example is this one right here, because once we typed our email, test@test.com, this email was sent to the web application, and based on this input, the web application executed code to change our email to the email that we inputted in the input box. And therefore, we can use this box to manipulate the behavior of the web application and possibly discover bugs in it and exploit them. So every single bug that you're going to learn later on in the course, you should try to test for it in this input box. But right now, we are talking about broken access control. So let's try to understand how this works, analyze it, and see if we can discover any bugs in it. And a great way of doing this is using the repeater functionality of Burp Suite. So we're familiar with the proxy, and right now I'm already in the proxy window. I'm going to turn the proxy on, and I'm going to put another email. So let's say test2@test.com, and we're going to click on update the email. We're going to intercept the request in here. Now, as you can see, it's a post request. It's being sent to this path right here. And if we look down in the body parameters, we can see a value of an email, and the value is what we inputted in this input box. So you can test for all of the vulnerabilities that you will learn later on and everything that you learned so far by inputting data in this box, clicking update, intercepting it in here, and modifying this value in here. Or you can actually right click this request and click on send to repeater. Once you do that, you'll see now the repeater is highlighted in orange. And if I click on the repeater, I have the exact same request that we had before. And if we scroll down, we have the same values that we inputted in here. You can click on the inspector, similar to what we had in the proxy, to browse and edit these data based on the categories that you have in here. And once you click on send, this request is going to be sent, and you'll be able to see the response that this request triggered right here at the bottom. Therefore, you can modify this request as you wish right here, or you can use the inspector in here and modify it similar to what we did when we were using the proxy. But the nice thing is, once you modify this request, you can click on send and you'll instantly see the response in here. So you won't have to always submit the data using the target website, intercept it in the proxy, and then edit it and then forward it. You can use the repeater to quickly test for a large number of vulnerabilities, because as we go through the course, I'm going to teach you so many different vulnerabilities, and every time you see data being sent to the target, such as this data right here, or if it's being sent in the request parameters in here, you want to modify this data and test for all of these vulnerabilities. So with the repeater, you can do this pretty quickly and analyze the response. Another benefit of using the repeater is that sometimes when you load a website or when you click on update or submit a form, a number of requests are sent. So you'd want to test every single request, and therefore you can split them, send them to the repeater like so, analyze the result, and see if you can use it to discover any vulnerabilities. Now, once we send a post request to this path, and the value of the request is a new email, we get a response of 300, which is a redirection response. If you remember when we spoke about the responses earlier, and we're being redirected to my account, to the account page. And the result, you can see the username, which we can actually see on our username. You can see the new email that we requested in our request. You can see the API key, but this is our API key, so this is not really an information leak or an information disclosure. And you can also see the role ID. So this is probably my permissions on this website or my role on this website. Now, again, this is another example where the hacker or bug hunter mentality comes into play. It's very important to pause when you see information like this and just go back to the website and think, what does this form allow the user to do? And the answer is very simple. It allows the user to update their email. Now, what is the email? The email is part of the user information. So this form allows the user to update their user information. And we can see once we submit the new information, which is the new email, we get a response with all of the user information, including the email, which is the specific information that we wanted to modify. So let's try to use the same form and the same request to update another piece of information. And for example, let's try to change the role ID to a different role ID. We're gonna copy what we have in here, and we're gonna use the same format. So we're gonna put a comma in our request, a new line, and we're gonna paste what we copied. And our current role ID is 1, as you can see in here. Therefore, we're gonna set it to 2. We're gonna click on send to send it. And as you can see in the response, we're not getting a 400, we're not getting anything that is giving us an error. We're actually getting a 300, meaning a redirect to the My account with the new information. So the email is still the same because we actually didn't modify the email, but now my role ID has changed to 2. So that's perfect. That means I managed to modify my user information in here and change my role ID, even though this form is not designed to allow me to change that. Now let's go ahead to my proxy and turn off the interceptor, and let's refresh this page. And as you can see now, I actually have access to the admin panel because I changed my privileges to a higher privileged user. So I changed my role ID to number 2, and it looks like in this web application, role ID number 2 gives you admin privileges. So again, this is not concrete, this is not always the way, but you want to look at your target web application and manipulate its values based on what you see. So we saw that we have role ID number 1, and usually I would actually try to set that to 0 first, and if that didn't work, I would try 2, 3, 4. If I saw A, I would call it B. If I saw a normal user, I will try to change my role ID to admin. So you want to see how the web application is working and modify it within the same constraints or within the same methodology. So let's click on the admin panel and see if this actually works. And as you can see, we managed to get access to the admin page. So this is obviously an example of broken access control. Now, you don't necessarily have to use the repeater to do this, but I wanted to introduce you to it because it is very useful and we will be using it in the future when we're testing for vulnerabilities. When you want to run a number of tests, you want to be able to modify the requests quickly and study the response to see if that would help you to discover other bugs and vulnerabilities.